Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss the basics of Ansys Workbench. First of all, we will study about the graphic user interface. So be ready and enjoy the lecture series on Ansys Workbench with me, Sonendra Sharma.
The graphic user interface of Ansys Workbench window basically consists of four parts, which are menu bar, standard toolbar, toolbox, and project schematic. Menu bar is located on the top and contains the options such as file, view, open, and so on. These options enable you to control and manage the files of current project. Standard toolbar is collection of frequently used tools like new, open, save, import, refresh project, update project, and many more. These tools available in standard toolbar also available in menu bar. The analysis system toolbox basically contains predefined templates for different types of analysis that can be carried out in Ansys Workbench. Each predefined template consists of all the components that are used to perform a particular type of analysis. Here you can see different type of analysis system. So first of all, we need to select a analysis system if we need to determine the temperature gradient, heat flow rates, and heat fluxes under the influences of thermal loading, which remains constant with time and are static in nature. Then we need to select steady state thermal. Similarly, if we need to carry out flow analysis of compressive and incompressible fluids, transparent fluids, then we need to select a fluid flow. Now, this part is known as project schematic. So, if we want to select a particular analysis system into our project, then we need to double click on template of that analysis system. Here I am going to select static structure. So static structure. The project schematic window of Ansys Workbench basically displays the workflow of entire analysis project. Now, I am going to discuss the different components of the project. There are basically six components of any analysis system in Ansys Workbench. These are arranged in the sequence. The question mark in the front of any component shows that this component need to be updated or modified. Now, these are arranged in a sequence. It means to work on a particular component, the components which are previous to it needs to be completed first. It means if we want to work on model, then we need to work firstly on engineering data and geometry. Whenever any component is completed, a right tick appears in front of it. Now, I am going to discuss different components further. So,
we need to work on all these components in order to carry out analysis. We can open the engineering data workspace in two ways. One way is by double clicking on the component, and second way is by right click on the engineering data cell. Then after right clicking, there will be these options in the drop down menu. When we select edit, then the engineering data workspace will open. We will discuss these components in details one by one in further lectures. Today I am going to give you an overview of the analysis in the Ansys Workbench. Similarly, we can assign a geometry to our system in two ways. First one is by double clicking on the geometry cell, and second one is by right clicking on the geometry cell. After right clicking on the geometry cell, again a drop down menu will appear. So here we have two options. In Ansys Workbench, we can import geometry from any design software like SolidWorks, CATIA, and second way is by creating the geometry in Ansys Workbench in a tool which is known as Design Modeler. So Ansys Workbench is having a geometry tool which is Design Modeler. So we can create geometry here in Ansys Workbench using Design Modeler, or we can import geometry from any design software like CATIA, SolidWorks. Okay. Now further, by double clicking on the mechanical window will open. In this, basically we discretize our geometry. Okay. Further, in setup we provide boundary conditions to our system. In now all these four components, engineering data, geometry, model and setup, are combinedly known as pre-processing. So in Ansys Workbench, our whole analysis is divided into three categories. First one is pre-processing. In pre-processing is a phase that processes input data to produce output. In pre-processing, we define type of analysis, like we have defined static structure, then we define element type, then we define material properties, as I already told you, like Young's modulus, Poisson's ratio, thermal conductivity in engineering data. We provide geometry model, okay, in geometry cell. Further, we discretize the geometric model into a small element, and finally we define loading and boundary conditions like defining loads, pressures, moments, temperature, constants like fixed or frictionless support. Okay, now all these four components are combinedly known as pre-processing phase of analysis in Ansys Workbench. Now I am going to discuss solution. The solution phase is completely automatic. Ansys Workbench generates element matrices, computer nodal values and derivatives, and stores the result data in files. These files are further used in post-processing to review and analyze the results. Okay, in solution basically there are a set of equations stored in a certain analysis system based on the input provided to the Ansys Workbench. In the solution phase, software basically solves the different governing equations and determine the values which are required, like stresses, deformations in the static structure at all these nodal values. Okay, the result is known as post-processing phase. The post-processing phase, the software basically processes the result data obtained from the solution phase and displays them in graphical form to check or analyze the results. Now for example, if we need to analyze the result, so we need to have some stress distribution in static structure, similarly velocity distribution, pressure distribution in fluid flow. So we will stop here and discuss the first component of the Ansys Workbench, which is engineering data, in next lecture. Thank you everyone.